I can't see anything. No, just a white little light. What are you talking about? On the No, there isn't anything bang. Which screen? We talk about? Oh, right. Very good. Thank you. Goodbye. Sure. Before Ben was on, but he's gone off. I was so about not doing it on. I was so about not doing it on straight after Shacharis. It was just too complicated. Right. Let's try. We're up to the Mishnah Kuf Nun Hey Amud Aleph. We're quite a bit to do. I want to get to the Mishnah Daf Kuf Nun Vav on the base, and then we'll finish Mitzvah on Shabbos. So the following sugyas all discuss one thing, and unfortunately, because we don't have it, it's very hard to understand. And that is like this: we're discussing the topic of what efforts you're allowed to do to feed animals on Shabbos. Now, we're not discussing Isuri D'Oraisa, we're discussing Isuri D'Rabbanan. Chazal did not want people to be working on Shabbos just to feed the animals. So therefore, certain things they permitted, certain things they forbade. Understanding clearly is quite a difficulty because we don't always know which kind of food they used to eat and how they used to eat it. But we're going to learn the principles. So the Mishnah starts off by saying, Matin Pekiyei Omi. You're allowed to undo bundles of Omi. Here, there's a nice picture of it. If you can see a farmer is undoing a bundle of straw so his cow can eat it. Lifnei behemah. When fast for sinners are keeping, is a slightly different activity. If you look over here, it's a very nice picture. What he's doing is he's crumbling the straw. By crumbling the straw, it's even better than just undoing the bundles, because crumbling the straw actually makes the animal want to eat it and makes it smell good, Rashi says. So therefore, crumbling the straw is of even greater value. And all that is permitted. Avaloy says zirin, but not zirin, and we'll explain what that means. You're not allowed to crush shachas, which is a kind of food, or chavum, which is kind of carbs, in front of an animal, whether it's a big animal or a small animal. A good matter b'chavum nedaka allows by carbs to small animals. Again, we saw in our Mishnah two kinds of activities. One, you're allowed to undo a bundle. Two, you're allowed to crumble the straw. But you're not allowed to crush shachas and chavuvim. The reason is because it's a tircha yeseva. Says the Gemara, we've got two mahalchim in our Mishnah, two completely different mahalchim in our Mishnah. Omavuna. Hein pekin, hein kippin. Pekin and kippin are exactly the same thing. But pekin shrei, pekin is two bundles, where the bundle is tied up twice. Kippin telosa, where it's tied up 3 times. So if you look very carefully at this picture, you'll see that over here the bundle is tied up 3 times. So let's get the check focus. The bundle is tied up 3 times. Can you see it? That's called a bundle which is tied up 3 times. If a bundle be opened twice, that would be kippin. So that's the difference between kippin and zir. But kippin and pekin. Zirin de'al zi, but zirin is a whole new thing. Zirin is actually wood. You're allowed to under the bundle, even crumble it. But in the kippin, even if it's tied up 3 times. You shouldn't say, well, if it's tied up 3 times, that's going to be a real business to undo it. No, even that's permitted. But not wood. He holds like this, that Chazal allowed you on Shabbos when you've already got animal food, and it's a question of improving animal food, that they allowed. Creating animal food, they forbade. So straw, with the question is only to crumble it or to undo it so the cow should enjoy it better because it's easier to eat, that's permitted. But wood, where you cannot, it's not normally animal food, and the only way to make it into animal food is by starting to break it into pieces, that they do not allow. He's got a different malach than our Mishnah. Pekin is in the same thing. Pekin shveiz and tlosa. Kippin darzi. Kippin is made out of wood. Bachi kalmaham. Matin pekin hamil if they bein ma b'fusfuseloi. You're allowed to undo a bundle. Why? Because that makes it into food, but crumbling not. But kippin, but wood. B'fusinamin fusfusino. Wood. The only way an animal is going to eat it is if you actually crumble it. If you just undo the bundle, you won't eat it. Only to undo. He holds that Chazal permitted people to make animal food on Shabbos, but not to make animal food tastier. So therefore, when it comes to bundles of straw, all you need to do is you're allowed to undo it, because that way the cow can access it. But to stop crumbling it up, no. Let animals struggle and eat it without being crumbled. When it comes to wood, if you don't crumble it, the animal won't be able to eat it. So therefore you're allowed to. So again, according to Avona, the heta is that you're allowed to improve animal food on Shabbos in order that animals should be able to enjoy it better. But you're not allowed to make something which is not edible for an animal into edible. Actually, according to Rabbi Yehuda, he holds on the contrary. You're allowed to make food edible, but you're not allowed to improve on them. Says the Gemara, Tanakh. You're not allowed to crush shachas and chavuvin. My lab, chavuvin to shachas. Carob similar to shachas. My shachas to a chichi. Just like shachas is a very easy food to eat. Af chavuvin, the chavuvin to a chichi. We'll talk about cows which are soft. You can see we don't allow you to improve on food, that we don't allow you to crush it. With you to davona. Shachas to the chavuvin. Machavuvin da kushi. Chavuvin are very, very hard. Carobs are very hard to eat. Shachas da kushi. We'll talk about very small donkeys. For very small donkeys, carobs are inedible because they struggle to eat them. Why do they struggle to eat them? Because they're so little, they're such babies, that they can't eat their carobs unless they're being crushed. So for them, cows being crushed is actually making it into food, not improving it into food. You're not allowed to make it effort in food. You're allowed to make it, but not improve it. He holds that for a little animal, crushing it makes it into food. You're not allowed to make it into food. You're allowed to be to improve it. Of course, he allows for a gaso, because if you're allowed to do it for a little animal, you're allowed to do it for a big animal, because you're just improving it for it. And so when we saw this daka mamash, do you think that daka means literally a small animal? My daka gaso, we mean a big animal. Why call it daka? Why do you call it daka? The daka ukhla. Normally the word daka means a little animal, like a lamb, goat. And gas means a big animal, like a cow or donkey. Here the Gemara says, no. The word daka can also mean something which is exact. When he eats it with tremendous effort. And that's a gas, or big animal. That what they do is, they crush the food carefully. It says, he meant literally daka, because the Tanakh says daka and gasa. Kasha, it's a kasha on Ravon. Toshema, mechatchen es. Adeluin, top of kufun and hemon beis, if they are behema. You're allowed to cut up pumpkins in front of animals. It's an avail if they are cloving. My love, Deluin, do me the nevela. We're not talking about pumpkins just like dead animals. Man, nevela do a kicho, afternoon do a kichi, we're talking about soft ones. I'm talking on Bochla, to do of Yehuda. You're allowed to make an effort in food. Oh, like Yehuda, nevela do me the Deluin. My Deluin da shuni, the hard, after nevela da shuno. When are you ever going to get meat which is so tough that the only way to eat it is by cutting it up? When are you going to get such tough meat? And it says more meat from an elephant. In Nami Biguraisa Zutri, we'll talk about very, very small animals, where any meat is too tough for them to eat. You're allowed to crumble straw and aspasto. You're allowed to mix it. And well, no. Teven betimna sai, we'll talk about moldy teven. Aspasta b'lezuti, we'll talk about smaller animals. So the Gemara's got no right one or the other. Let me take this. Chazal did not want people to get busy with the animals on Shabbos, because they said tircha, it's uvda dechol. Why are you busy with the animals? You should be busy doing other things for Shabbos. But Chazal did allow something. The question is, what did they allow? Did they allow preparing food, meaning taking wood or straw, which is inedible for an animal, and doing something to make it edible, but improving on it, no, because they said to them, just let the animals struggle and eat it. But they say, no, making inedible food into food, that's forbidden, because that's a proper tircha. Improving on food is mutter. So that's the machlikas amorim pshat in our Mishnah. So I need to get a drink. So I had to get a drink. Okay. Says the Mishnah. Ein oisnes agomel. There were many different ways to feed the animals, and they used to want to feed the animals as much as possible to get them fat, or if they were going on a journey and they were scared they wouldn't get a lot of food on the journey, they would stuff the animal as much as possible that they shouldn't be hungry later. I'm going to show a few pictures. There's 4 pictures over here of feeding. Here's oisnes agomel, where the man sticks his hand down the neck of the camel and pushes the food all the way in. This is malitin. Malitin is where you put the food only into the mouth, not down the throat. Then here's mamrin. Mamrin, the Gemara will discuss that you make the animal crouch to the floor and you stuff it. The Gemara will discuss exactly the details, either where the animal can't even sick it up, etc. And malitin is much easier, much more gentle way of feeding it, where you just stick it into its mouth. And then you've got with the chickens the same thing. And the chicken is called mahalektin, where what you do is you feed the chickens, and here you're mixing the produce that is ready to be eaten. I'm sorry about the disturbances. So the Mishnah says like this: Ain't oisnes agomel, you're not allowed to stuff a camel. V'lo not allowed to push food down. Amalitin, be allowed to feed it. V'mamilis agomel, not allowed to stuff a calf. Amalitin ulaktin, be allowed to feed chickens. You're allowed to put water into kind of straw. You're not allowed to mix it. You're not allowed to put water and in front of bees and birds. The Gemara's going to see 2 different reasons. The Gemara permits certain birds you're allowed to feed, certain birds you're not allowed to feed. And the Gemara's got always 2 different understandings why certain birds yes and certain birds not. Either birds that you are responsible, that means birds that you own, you're allowed to feed. Birds that you don't own, you're not allowed to feed. Alternatively, birds that can access their own food because they're capable of flying around and finding their own food, you're not allowed to feed because they can just get their own food. But birds that can't access their own food, you are allowed to. So they will explain. My ain't overseen, what's been in overseen of your day, the obvious you don't make a trough inside its stomach. Because you don't feed it so much that it has like a trough inside its stomach. Is there such a thing? I saw an Arab camel driver that fed its animal an entire core of food in one go. So therefore you can see, and then they made it load up in a core. So you see it's possible to stuff an animal with huge amounts of food. Hamor means that you stuff it so far down the throat of the animal that an animal can't throw it up. Halota is where the animal can cuff it back up. Both of them to a place where the animal can't cuff it, can't stick it up. Hamor is with a keli, and halota is using with a vessel. Halota is b'yad, is doing it with their hand. That you're allowed to feed chickens, but not birds that live in a birdhouse. Or birds that live upstairs. My malaktin, my malkitin. Ile malaktin to suffer le biodine. Malkitin the shodele kamayu. The malaktin means that you stuff it with your hands. Amalkitin means you just throw it in front of them. That means it would come out that by birds that live in the bird nests, you won't be allowed to throw food in front of them. And at this stage, the Gemara can't understand why not. Why shouldn't you be allowed to feed a bird on Shabbos? The Amor is using a keli, and that's much worse. But you did avoda. Malaktin the sofle biodai. Malaktin is we pushed in the hand, Malkit the shot kamai. They just throw it in front of them. Nami, why can't you feed birds on Shabbos? What's the problem? Look, Nami, look. The birds that it's not your responsibility to feed, you're not allowed to feed. Birds that it is your responsibility to feed, you are allowed to feed. And therefore, it comes out that you're not allowed to feed birds on Shabbos unless they're your responsibility. So, for example, on Parshas B'Shalach, which is Shabbos Shiur, people have a minute to throw crumbs to the birds. You're not allowed to do it on Shabbos. Why? Because when you throw crumbs to the birds, you're throwing it to birds that are flying around, and they're not your responsibility. So you're making an effort on Shabbos for birds that is not your responsibility. You're allowed to feed a dog, you're not allowed to feed the chazan. What's the difference? This one is your job to feed, this one's not. In this man, if they burn, if they yin, my time. Why did the Mishnah say allowed to put in front of ducks and geese and chickens and not in front of birds? My time. It must be because these are your responsibility to feed and these are not. According to your logic, you won't be allowed to give them not just water, you won't be allowed to give them wheat and barley either. Here the water is a different pshat. The reason why you're not allowed to give water to the birds is because they don't need to get it from you. They could just as easily get it from the swamp. So therefore, you're making an effort for no reason. In other words, it's a tiny bit of that tzaddik knows what the poor needs. In the olden days, people did not feed the dogs very much. Nowadays, it's changed. People pamper the dogs no end. But in the olden days, people did not feed the dogs. Since they did not feed the dogs, so therefore what would happen is, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted the dogs shouldn't starve. It's a hard Mishnah to understand. Mishnah said like this. A dead body creates tumah. A dog ate a part of a human body. So then the question is, does the human body create tumah? So it depends if it's being digested. So by a dog, it takes 3 days for it to digest, and therefore it takes, since it takes 3 days for it to be digested, so therefore it is. Let me just put. Can you is everything okay? Ben, can you hear me clearly? Basically. Yeah. Okay. So therefore, since the dog takes 3 days to digest the foods, therefore the dead body is still conveys tumah. By another animal, it's much shorter. Because it's done. That there should be tumah from the dead body. That's 72 hours. But if it's a dog, they stipple over to soy, as long as it takes him to fall into a fire and burn. If a person sees a dog which nobody's looking after, one should give it some food. The size of his ear. But you should hit it at the same time. Why? Because if you don't hit a dog when you feed it, the dog will constantly come to ask for more food. So whenever you feed a dog, you should hit it at the same time. Don't tell the RSPCA. Handy Milia Bedaba is only in the desert, but Mosa Loy in a town not. The dog will follow you around. There's nobody poorer than a dog, and there's nobody richer than a chaza. A chaza eats everything. So therefore, since it eats everything, it's always got whatever food it wants. A dog is people don't feed it so much, and therefore it's always poor. Tanek Rostav Yuda Ezi Amor Vezi Alot. Amor Mar Bitzo, you force it into its knees, Upekes Espio, you force it open to its mouth. You feed the veg and water in one go. Haloto Machila Muhammad, you feed it standing up. Umashka Muhammad, and you give it drink standing up. But there's a kashin if they ask one, you put the kashin in and the water separately, and it eats as much as it wants, and therefore you can't force it and you can't push it all the way down where you can't throw it up. Says the Gemara, this is Mani. I asked him, who does our Mishnah hold like? that you're allowed to put water into mulsan. Mulsan is that kind of bran, and we're not choshesh for lisha. Well, Maria Rabbi Yehuda the Tanya echon nisnes sakim echon nisnes mayim lachim chayav divrei Rabbi. If you just take water and flour and you don't actually stir it, you just add water to flour. According to Rabbi, that's proper losh. Because when you add water to flour, it automatically becomes a kind of dough, it becomes a kind of paste. And Rabbi Yehuda says, no, you're not chayav until you actually go about and stirring it. He says, well, no, because it's easily stirred, it becomes a dough. Where you can't really do lisha because there's no lisha to be done. I feel like with a moida, maybe with a moida that adding water is considered proper gibul because at the end of the day there is no stirring later. It's just bran and water which you can't really stir properly. No, don't think like that. The Tanya behedya, ain't no man in Musan divu every. You're allowed to. So our Mishnah says you're allowed to put water into Musan into bran. And there's no problem of lisha, it's shittas of Yisrael Yehuda. Todo rabbanon, in giving this a koli, you're not allowed to mix grain which is made out of flour which is made out of parched grain. Yeshemim govlin, man Yeshemim, who's the Yeshemim that say you're allowed to mix it? Omav chista, top of kufnun vavam with the aleph, of Yisrael Yehuda. It's a Yisrael Yehuda that says you're allowed to. Why? Because Rabbi Yehuda holds that something which is not bar gibor, you're even allowed to mix it. But you have to do a variation. You have to do a change. You have to do a deviation from the normal way. You only do bit by bit. So if you want to mix water and bran, you can only do it bit by bit, but not a lot. The shovin, they both agree. That is water, oil, and salt mixed with a bit of flour, that you're allowed to mix it because it's a very loose. And you're allowed to drink zeisma mitzvi, even though zeisma mitzvi is sometimes used for medicine purposes. Since healthy people also eat it, it's okay. But almost ain't good, and you're not allowed to. And it's more kasha. That when it's a thick paste, it's forbidden. When it's a very thin, loose mixture, it's permitted. But you have to deviate from the normal way. Normally you put the vinegar and afterwards you add the flour. The Shabbos, you first add the grain flour, and then you put the vinegar. We discussed this once before. A loose mixture. If you do it in a deviated way from normal, then it is permitted. Levi saw that his father's farmer would go around stirring the bran and the water together and feed it to the animals. Levi kicked him to tell him that it's forbidden. He met him. Who's that? Govlin, you're allowed to mix it. But you're not allowed to stuff the animal. An animal that can't eat, an animal that hasn't yet learned how to eat properly. We're allowed to feed him on Shabbos. But when you mix it, you have to do a change. What's the change? You do it crisscross and not stirring. Normally when you want to stir something, you go in a round motion. Here what you do is you go this way and that way rather than mixing it properly. It won't get mixed properly because if you only do crisscross, then you won't actually mix the food together. And so now in a keli, you can just, instead of stirring it, you shake the bowl that it's inside. By shaking the bowl that it's inside, that's how it gets the mutter, and that is permitted. Because of Apinka said to Zevi, it was written on the booklet of Zevi, almost Kadam Rebbe, I said in front of Rebbe, my Rebbe Umanu, who is his Rebbe Rabchia? Maule Gabel, are you allowed to mix on Shabbos or Maule Farik? Are you allowed to move food from one animal pail to another animal pail? Let's say you see one cow is eaten a lot and one cow is eaten less. Are you allowed to move from one to the other? Is that considered tzurcha yaseya? He said, no, it's mutter. To put one measure of food in front of one cow, or two measures of food in front of two cows, that's okay. To loss the 3 portions of food in front of 2 is forbidden, because that could make a tzilcha on Shabbos for animals, which is forbidden. No, you're even allowed to do a kav, even 2 kav, you're allowed to give the animals as much as you want, and there's no problem whatsoever on Shabbos of overfeeding them. Because I think it's a Levi. Almost come in Rebbe, I said in front of Rebbe, Umanu Rabbeinu HaKadosh. At Avagovin Shasisa the Shabbos, they would mix, they would stir Shasisa on Shabbos, but it's Sovach Rebbe. And Rebbe would shout them, Umanu, who's my Rebbe? Rabbeinu HaKadosh. At the Govin Shasisa, lest the Shmiya Alei, nobody listened to him. That means Rebbe himself held, you're not allowed to stir Shasisa on Shabbos. But as Chelim did in Mesa, he couldn't stop them, since Rabbi Yehuda held. Are you allowed to stir shosis, even if it's a thick paste on Shabbos, so that as long as you do it with a shinoi? So therefore, Rebbe did not have the strength to be able to stop them and to forbid it. Now the Gemara's got a bit of a galata, nice light galata to help us. A person is born on a Sunday, the first day of Shabbos. You will only have one midah. You will only have one midah. If anybody is born on a Sunday, you'll only have one midah. On Sunday was the beginning of Bria. Since it was created, the beginning of the Bria. They will be completely bad. That's somebody born on Sunday. Always be a Rasha. Rav Ashi was born on a Sunday. And Rav Ashi was a big tzaddik. That he'll never do anything bad. That also can't be true. Rav Ashi and another person called Dimi was born on Sunday. And no Melech, I became a Talmud Chacham, a Rosh Hashiva, Vuavovesh Ganvi, and he became a Ganav. He became a head of a group of robbers. Elo, Ikule Letuva, Ikule Levishu, my Tamadibu over Choshech. That means, if a person is born on Sunday, it'll either be completely a tzaddik or completely a Rosh, like Rav Ashi. He became Rosh Hashiva, and his friend that was born on Sunday became a head of robbers. Hi, man, somebody born on a Monday. Yegav Ragzon, he'll be an angry person. Person born on Monday will be an angry person. My time, that was the day the water was split between the top and below. So there's a lot of anger in the world. So somebody born on Monday gets angry. Somebody born on a Tuesday. Yegvar Asi will be a very, very wealthy person. Will also be a Baal Znus. My time because they grew grass. Grass grows everywhere, so that's a sign of pritzus, of not being constrained. Furthermore, grass grows very fast. Herbs grow very fast. Since they grow very fast, it's a sign of wealth. So being born on Tuesday is a sign of wealth and a sign of pritzus. Hi, somebody born on a Wednesday, will be wise and light up the world. Because that's the day where Hashem made the sun, the moon, and the stars. And therefore it's a sign of light, and therefore a person who's born on Wednesday will bring light to the world. Somebody born on a Thursday, he'll be somebody who does a lot of chesed. Because Thursday Hashem created fish and birds get a lot of food from Hashem. They don't have to work. Hashem throws the food around in all kinds of places. So therefore it's a day of chesed. Somebody who's born on a Friday, Gaver Chazon, will be constantly looking for things. Amar Nachem by Yitzchak, the Chazon of mitzvahs, he'll be constantly looking for mitzvahs. Just like on Friday, everyone's preparing for Shabbos. So being born on Friday is a time, it's a symbol that a person is going to be somebody searching for mitzvahs. Haman b'Shabbos, somebody born on Shabbos, b'Shabbos Yomu, somebody born on Shabbos will die on Shabbos. Because we mechal on Shabbos for him on Shabbos by taking him to hospital. So therefore, we are also, Akshmuch arranges that Shabbos, so to speak, gets its revenge, and there'll be a kapora for him that he'll die on Shabbos. But that person will be very Kaddish. Because he was born on a Kaddish day, he will be a very Kaddish person. It's nothing to do with which day you're born, it's to do with which hour in the day a person's born. And he goes, somebody who's born in the hour where the sun is in power, he'll be a person with a lot of shiny face. He'll eat his own food and drink his own food, and he won't take from other people, just like the sun never takes the light from the moon. And everyone knows his secrets. If he steals, he won't succeed, just like the sun is never hidden. So too, if a person is born in the time of the sun, his secrets will never be hidden, and he won't be able to be a good Gadim. Somebody who's born in the star of Noga, which I think is Venus, he'll be rich and balznus. Because it's a fiery star, and that star makes a person full of fire, and therefore he'll be light like a rich person, but also balznus. Person who's born under the mazel of koicha, he'll be wise and light the world. Because that star always stays next to the sun, and there is planet that always stays next to the sun, and the sun gives a lot of light. Somebody who's born when the mazel of the Levana is in power, he'll suffer very lot, just like the moon constantly becomes smaller. What he builds will be destroyed. What he destroys will be rebuilt. He'll eat things which are not his, drink things which are not his. Just like the moon does not produce its own light, so too will end up taking things which are not his. People, he'll hide his secrets. If he becomes a ganav, will be a matzliach. Why? Just like the moon is sometimes hidden, so too he'll be successful in hiding his success. Somebody who's born in the mazel of Shabsoi, whatever he plans will get cancelled, because Shabsoi is from Lashon Shabbos, to stop. What people think about him will be bottled. Haman with tzedek, you go at tzadka, will be at tzaddik. Omar Nachman Yitzchak will be tzadka b'mitzvah, so do a lot of tzedakah to the poor. Haman with madim, somebody who's born in the mazel of madim, he'll be a murderer or spill blood. Mavashi, not necessarily will he be a murderer. He'll either be a doctor who cuts and makes blood, or he'll be a Russia killing people. Or he might be a moyal. I'm in the madim, and I don't do any of these things. I'm not a sheikh, I'm not a moyal. You also kill people who disobey you. So therefore, there is a certain midah of punishment inside you. Mazel, machkim, mazel, mash. A person's mazel brings success, a person's mazel causes harm. The yesh mazel yisrael and klal yisrael are dependent on the mazel. The b'yichna ma ein mazel yisrael, there's no mazel yisrael. Or as a b'yichna tamei. Don't go in the ways of the goyim. And don't be scared of the signs of the heaven. Even if the goyim are scared. Hey, goyim should be scared of the yisrael. Hashem took him outside Avram Avinu. Will my Eliezer inherit me? I'm not going to have children. You're going to have a son. I'm never going to have any children. Go away from your stargazing. My dad, what are you thinking? Topic of Number base. That when you were born, then Tzedek was in the west, and that causes that person will not be able to have children. I'll turn it around and put it in the east. And Hashem moved the planet of Tzedek and moved it to the east in order that that Avram Avinu should have children. With the Shmuel Nami Mazli Yisrael, for Shmuel as well as no Mazli Yisrael, the Shmuel Avleit, have a Yosvi, they were sitting, there were some people walking to the meadow. It's unbelievable, Gemara, this. Avleit was a stargazer, and he said to Shmuel, Hi, Gava Ozav V'Loyosi. This person is coming and he's never going to come back. A snake is going to bite him or miss. If he's a Yid, Ozav V'Osi, he'll come back. Adi Yossi, while they were sitting, Ozav V'Osi, come Avleit, shot in he lifted up his burden, the possible shot of it. He saw that a snake had been chopped in half. This worker, this Yid, had gone to do his work, And he came back and he found that in his sack there was a snake chopped in half. What did you do today? It had a system. Every day, everybody would bring food, throw it into a shared bag, and at lunchtime, they would all divide up the food which they'd all brought. And would all eat. Today, I noticed that one of the people never had any bread. So he can't throw into the basket. If he can't throw into the basket, he's not allowed to take out of the basket. He would get very embarrassed. I'll be the one to collect the food from everybody. When I came to him, I pretended to take some bread off him, even though he never took and he gave me any bread, in order he shouldn't be embarrassed. Mitzvah of the not for Misa Mishuna and Misa Atzma, not for Misa Mishuna, only for Misa itself. It's a very interesting Gemara. The Avlet could see exactly what was going to happen, that this person's going to die, and he's going to die from a snake. And indeed, while he was working, he ended up chopping up a snake, because the snake did indeed come to attack him. Only he was saved. How was he saved? Because he did a tremendous mitzvah of tzedakah. What was the mitzvah of tzedakah? That he managed to pretend that somebody had given food, even though he hadn't. More says another very, very exciting story with Rabbi Akiva Nami in Mazali Sol. Rabbi Akiva Avlei Brati had a daughter, Omele Kaldo, the stargazer said to him, the day that she gets married, a snake will come bite her and kill her. So what happened was, have a doig and Musa Tuba, Akiva was very worried. That's still a good one. That she took off a hairpin and she stuck it into the wall. And she stuck it into the eye of the snake and killed it. When she took it out in the morning, she saw that the snake was drawn after it. She saw she had killed the snake. It was dark and night had no electricity. So when she took off a hairpin, she stuck it into the wall and she killed the snake. What did you do? In the afternoon on my chasna day, there was a poor man knocking on the door. Everybody was busy getting ready for the chasna. But nobody heard him. I took the portion of food which was set aside for me and I gave it to the poor man. Oh my Lord, mitzvah of the Nofak of Yakiva Vedoash, with Stokatats Moves, famous Mishunal Misa Atzmo. Stoka saves from all kinds of death, and not just from Misa Mishunal, but all kinds of death. Even though Nachman Yitzchak, your son will be a Ganav. She never left him have his head uncovered. Cover your head. Most of the Shema in order that you should have fear of Hashem. And daven. He never knew why she was so insistent on it. Yosef was sitting underneath the tree learning. A cloak fell off his head. He lifted up his eyes. Got very strong. And he jumped up and he bit a bunch of dates with his teeth off the tree. That he saw tremendous strength of stealing. That he was completely, once the head covering had come off, he lost his entire interest in doing mitzvahs, so he realized that's why his mother said that he should always cover his head. It wasn't even his own date tree. So he had to do two things. Daven that his Yitzhak should control him, and make sure to constantly cover his head. Okay, we're up to the Mishnah Kuf Nuvamam base. Mitzvah Hashem, we'll be doing this on Shabbos at 8:10. Any questions? No questions. Okay, Atzlachu with everything. Everybody's a bit tired from the Tanis, a long Tanis. So have a very, very good Shabbos. Looking forward to seeing you at the Siyum. Thanks.
Shabbos, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, have a good Shabbos. Shabbos. Sure.